Welcome to the Vietnamese Poetry, Literature channel. Today we will listen to the work, Across the River, by author Thach Lam. Let's listen. The district capital of my hometown is a lowland district, like other districts in our country, nothing special. The district is not very big, but very busy and crowded. Thanks to the railway passing through, and a small river, a branch of the Nhi Ha River, trade became prosperous. The district town has a section. This side is a train line, a section of thatched houses with plastered or wooden walls, small shops of people in the village open to sell sundries. Except for two two-story brick houses and quite large, two shops of customers who came to establish business here for who knows when, two large shops that hold all the trading interests in the district. Behind the wooden counter, one or two customers always sit and play an abacus, and the shop owner, who is fat, rosy, and has a head as shiny as a marble, sits majestically in an armchair, constantly lighting the fire. Pipe tobacco. These customers, and their enormous store, were the first to impress upon me the image of wealth, by making me guess at some strange country, the strange country in which they lived. There comes here, every day, sometimes every hour, I stop to look at them, observe their gestures, and hear their chirping voices, making me think of another strange world. At that time, I was only 13 years old. My teacher and mother in Hanoi, because of business losses, moved their goods to this district, my teacher's hometown, for 2 years. We lived in a small 3-room house right in the middle of the street, the front facing the train line, the back looking out to the fields. My mother opened a small grocery store to sell to rural people around that area who came to the district on off days. Because the market is held right in the middle of the street, rows of gifts, cakes, rice, coffee, baskets and baskets are lined up in 2 rows facing each other. Under the sky, the noise of the market goers, a special noise, resounding and bright, rose from that crowd like fire, covering the whole district, an active, and merry, multicolored crowd, full of light and laughter. And curses as sharp as needles through the air. It is all about my hometown, all the scenery of Van Duong district in the lower region, that one of my family members who loves writing poetry has sung in these 4 masterpieces. Why is Van Duong so sad in spring? Enough of our faces, ships everywhere wholesale. Below the wharf, merchant boats are crowded with docks. The train passes by again and again. I spent all my youth there, happy and jumping like a bird amidst the active life that surrounded me, with all my eyes to see, all my ears to hear, all my nose to smell what the smell of sand, the smell of soil, and the smell of garbage people burned at the beginning of the village in the afternoon followed the wind and mist into the street. All district markets, nooks and crannies or open spaces, are familiar and intimate to me like an old thing in the house. But, across the river, in the district, about half a kilometer from the market, there is a place that to me is like a secret, strange land. That place, people in the streets still call Sen Wharf, and the river passing through that place is called Sen River. Ben Sen is a cluster of houses with more than 10 roofs, filled with green trees, on both sides of a stone road leading to nowhere. Behind, is a deserted field, full of graveyards and pineapple bushes, on this side, a small dike and a row of trees, on the other side, a shop with stone pillars, standing next to a small winding road leading into the village. There is a banyan tree that is hundreds of years old, with roots straight down to the ground that are so big that people can hug them, making it impossible for anyone to distinguish them. No, where is the root, where are the roots? Nearby, there is an abandoned stone grave, a few moldy stone statues mixed in with thick grass, under 2 tall pine trees, crowding the entire area. A shaky wooden bridge about to collapse, a bridge the government has abandoned, spans the river, connecting Sen Wharf with the district market on this side. On the very rare occasions that I was able to go to that side, I never crossed that bridge without fear. The old planks of the bridge shook under my steps, and through the gap I saw the deep river flowing. But there are very few occasions to visit Sen Wharf, because people from this side do not often interact with people from that side. Ben Sen eats in another province, Northern Province. The robbers many times robbed the district town and then retreated there to avoid being searched, making that area even more exciting and scary for the people of the district. For me, people in the street often whisper to each other about things happening there, and every time someone arrived at Sen Wharf, everyone looked attentively as if someone from a strange place had come. One time, a gray-bearded old man came to my house to drink wine and recite poetry with my teacher. When I found out he was with Sen, I looked at him admiringly. My mother told me he was a very literate man. In the riverside village on the other side, a famous village because in the past, there was a when he was 18, he had a doctorate. When the old man left, I took him to the beginning of the bridge. I stopped and watched him hold his umbrella across the field, until the little man appeared on the horizon. The area next to Sen always haunted my young imagination. Many times, I snuck behind the house, stood on a mound of land, looked across the river, looked at the house hidden by the trees, the lonely shop and the trees on the dike, on the side of the road, not knowing where or what to go. What far-away places are on the other side of the dim green hills and mountains on the horizon? For me, growing up in a muddy, stagnant plain and captivating hills and mountains is like a strange calling. In that mountain range, there is a hill that on clear sunny afternoons, I see red in the blue sky. On the top of the hill, one can clearly see a cluster of trees. My mother said it was Thien Tai Pagoda. Thien Tai. That magical name makes me think of the beautiful places in the fairyland, the fun places of the fairies that my teacher still reads about in stories and tells me about. Then I wandered until the afternoon, when the sun was low, to see the whole area on the other side of the river shining brightly with rays of sunlight. Then it got even darker, when only the dusk could still shine through the clouds. We could see the row of houses dim and lower, blending into the ground, and the 2 pine trees grew taller, standing out black against the sky. Gradually, I had many opportunities to visit Sen. That's thanks to my friend Tien. I was in 3rd grade at school, almost at the end of the year, when Tien applied to enroll. I loved him immediately. Tien is a slim and pretty child, with big eyes, white skin, and hair as soft as silk. I love Tien like I love a daughter. Tien is modest, gentle and devoted to her friends. But besides those good qualities, Tien makes me close and seduces me because he lives on the other side of the river. That one thing made him seem like a strange child to me. I became very close friends with Tien, and every afternoon after school, I would see him off to the bridge before returning. One Sunday, Tien invited me over to his house. I was as happy as someone about to go on an adventure, because that was the first time I was able to cross the other side of the river. Tien and I crossed the bridge together. We stopped and leaned against the bridge, looking down at the river. Several boats of traders crowded together on the shore, with a few children playing and a dog curled up on the roof of the boat sleeping. Those are the boats coming from the northern province, carrying strange goods. Tien raised his hand and pointed at the boats and told me. When we came back from the north, we also took a boat like this. I looked at Tien and wanted to ask him about that remote northern province, but stopped. Tien took my hand across the bridge to Sen Street. Tien's house is at the end of the street, right next to the field. I saw a grocery store similar to my mother's but smaller. On the counter, behind a few stalls, an old woman with white hair and a kind face was sitting at the checkout counter. Seeing me and Tien enter, the old lady's face brightened and asked, "Where are you going?" Tien used the hem of his shirt to wipe his sweat and replied, "Ma'am, I'm going to the market to play." The old lady looked at me, hid behind Tien, and said, "I'll go home and drink some water. You too, come in and play. Is it hard to walk in this sunny weather?" The old lady's voice was soft and sweet, making me feel comfortable and happy. Tien invited me into his house, which was very sparsely furnished, with cheap and old furniture. We were just sitting when suddenly a girl about 15 years old walked out of the house. I immediately knew it was Tian, because she looked exactly like Tian, with white skin and big eyes. Seeing her, Tui smiled on her dark lips, a smile as bright and charming as I had never seen in my life. "Are you back?" The voice was as soft as the old woman's, but clearer. Tui came closer to us and asked her carefully. I was stunned by her beauty, naturally moved. Even though I'm young, I also know that I'm standing next to something precious and rare, something fragile that will no longer exist. When Tui put her hand on my shoulder, my whole body shook. I felt like I was starting to love her. "Are you in the same class as Tian?" "Yes." Tui stroked my hair and said. "You're so obedient." She continued. "Let's play with Tian here and eat cake." "Tian, you left the cake on the table over there." Tui didn't eat, just sat and looked at us. I saw her looking at Tian very lovingly, making me jealous that she had such a beautiful and considerate sister. But she also asked me questions, and I answered cheerfully, not just to talk, but to hear her clear and soft voice. After eating, Tian invited me to play outside in the cemetery behind the house. For the first time, I stood in the middle of a secret area and got to see 2 pine trees with several stone statues hidden in the grass. The murmuring sound of pine trees is like a strange, deep sound as if brought from another realm, and the windswept stone pillar shop in the middle of the field seems to be waiting for people from a long time ago to come and rest. From that day on, I often went to Sen's side. I want to be close to the trees and plants in that area. To me, they still have a unique look that is different from the trees here. I want to always see Tui, hear her voice, see her beautiful mouth parted above her black teeth. Even the old lady made me love her. I don't know much about Tian's family, but on the faces of the people in that family, I always see a hint of quietness, a hint of sadness, which makes them even more adorable. I guess before coming to trade here, they had a strange and rich life. The traces left behind are strange objects, such as swords, bronze gongs, and jade turtles, kept in a box. Glass cabinet with painted wood. Besides, they are so different from the cheerful, primitive people over here. Ms. Tui and Tian both have pale white skin, small limbs, elegant postures, soft voices, unlike the rosy people in front of my house. At that time, I thought it was because they were in that secret area, or because they were unusual people, that they dared to go there. I played with Tian more and more intimately. I am considered a child of that family. Ms. Tui treats me like a younger sister, and cares for and caress me like Tian. Many times she let me lay my head down on her lap, caressed my hair, and asked thoughtful questions. Even now, how much time has passed, I still remember, when I looked up, her clear eyes and beautiful mouth bent down on me, her small hand placed on my forehead, hot from running and jumping in the field. I still remember the image of that graceful and beautiful girl, emerging in my youth as a gentle fairy, amidst a strange area of vegetation. But soon I had to say goodbye to my little friend. My teacher and mother moved to Hanoi, so I had to follow. My last session with Tian was by the Seine River on a cold and gloomy winter day. We went together one last time to visit the stone statues still sitting in the grass. It's almost time to be apart. We'll probably never see each other again, but we're still too young to feel sad. When Tui put her hand on my shoulder, she gently said, "When will I see you again?" I suddenly sobbed all over, tears spilled out of the corners of my eyes. I put my head on Thui's shoulder and cried. The story must have an end. 10 years later I had the opportunity to return to Van Duong again. The scene is different from before. The market street is now busier, with tiled houses close together. The old people sitting at the sales counter were all old, with gray hair and beard, and the children who had studied with me before were now sitting there, becoming adults who looked completely strange. I went to the other side of the river. The iron bridge is no longer there. One night there was a strong wind. The bridge collapsed and people did not repair it because the road to the north had few passers-by. Now you have to use a boat to cross the river. I crossed the ferry in the afternoon, when the mist had begun to mix with the smoke in the fishing boats parked at the landing dock. A scene of desolation awaited me. On the other side of the river, now there was only abandoned land, grass growing on the steps of the old house. An empty, crooked water shop next to a barren banyan tree. A whole street has disappeared, the trees are limp and ragged in the afternoon wind. Only the trees on the dike are still there, still the same. On the far road, with no one knowing where to go, the road is about to be filled with immense darkness. On the horizon there was not a single person in sight. I don't dare go any further. Feeling sad, I returned to the boat, crossing the gray river under the fog. I didn't ask the ferryman who was here before, I'm sure he didn't know either. Seeing the foot of the black brick bridge covered with moss, I remembered my little friend, remembered Twee, her lovely graceful demeanor, the sadness that always lingered on her face. Now I guess it was hidden. How many painful changes. Her eyes were like the deep sky. I was able to see the aftertaste of life. Going ashore, I turned back one last time, looking at the trees, the shop, and the distant villages at the foot of the mountain range somewhere. The area across the river is no longer a secret to me, it only shows me the sadness of the poor land. At the end of the work, please support me with the like button and subscribe to the channel to listen to more works.